Stretching is a lie. Well, that's not necessarily the truth. In fact, I lied there. But it is a bit exaggerated, and there's a lot of myths out there when it comes to stretching. In this video, I'm going to hopefully dispel some of those myths and give you some good information about why you should be stretching, when you should be stretching, and what it's actually good for. But first of all, let's have a look at a couple of those myths and realise why they are a lie. And the first myth is that being more flexible prevents injuries. And many people think that the more flexible you are, the less likely you are to get injured. And while that is true to a degree, it's not necessarily true in a matter of black and white fact. You see, if you were less likely to be injured if you were more flexible, then gymnasts would be the least injured people when it comes to muscle strains and tightness and all that kind of stuff. But that isn't the case. In fact, they're probably quite the opposite end of the spectrum. They're probably one of the most injured athletes out there. You always see them with straps on their wrists, shoulders, everywhere. And that's because they are still putting their body through a stressful range of motion and putting a lot of emphasis on those muscles that may be out of their reach. And it doesn't matter how flexible they are, that's not going to prevent an injury from occurring. The research actually shows that if you want to have a reduction in injury, the best place to be is kind of in the middle, a bit flexible. If you're not flexible at all, then you're going to have higher risk of injuries. And if you're super flexible, those with hypermobility will know this, then the more likely you are to get injured. So having yourself somewhere in between where you have a good consistent flexibility routine to help you out is actually the best way, but not to be so flexible that you're actually putting yourself through a range of motion that causes more injuries. On to myth number 2, which is muscle tightness is caused by a shortened muscle, and you need to stretch it out to be able to get rid of the tightness. Before I dive deep into this, yes, the stretching it out does help, but only temporarily. That tightness feeling will come back. That's because the tightness isn't due to a shortened muscle, it's actually due to a weakened muscle. And we can go back to our gymnast example, because if it was because of a shortened muscle, again, gymnasts would never ever have tight muscles. But ask any gymnast out there and they're probably always feeling tight in different areas. So what is the issue here? Well, muscle tightness is in fact muscle weakness. It's a protective measure that your body does where it kind of spasms the muscles almost, where it tightens it up to make sure that it's protecting the joint through a range of motion. So if you want to get rid of muscle tightness, you actually want to strengthen the muscle that's getting tight. And if you do want to strengthen those muscles and you're a wheelchair user like myself, then you can sign up to my premium membership site. You got a link down below for 50% off your first year. Go check that out. So with those myths out of the way, why even bother stretching at all? What are the actual benefits? Well, first of all, I would say stretching is only really beneficial if you combine it with strengthening routine at the same time. Yes, you'll get more flexible in that and you'll reduce some of the muscle tightness feeling in the temporary sense. But without strengthening, you're not getting the real benefit of those muscles. It's two different ways of training our muscle for two different results. Both are equally beneficial, and this is why stretching is beneficial. And the first one is improved performance. Now, if we talk about power output, it's the range of motion times by the strength and speed that you're going at. But the more range of motion you can put your strength through, the more power you can put through your movement. Therefore, the more flexible you are, the more able you are to go faster, harder, and stronger. As we already mentioned as well, there is a decreased risk of injury when you are a bit flexible. Having a good amount of flexibility is where we want to be to reduce our injury risk. Next up is that it helps to increase our blood flow to the muscles that we have been stretching. This increased blood flow brings oxygen, nutrients, everything our muscle needs to be as efficient as it possibly can be, which is great for both our performance and our recovery too, getting the most out of your muscles. And lastly, for us wheelchair users, this one is a big one because it can enhance our daily activities. Having the flexibility, the range of motion specifically to be able to do different things may actually increase your ability level to be able to reach up high, reach down low, reach forward, behind, whatever it may be. If you're pushing an elevator button, if you're picking something off the floor, grabbing something from a shelf, having that range of motion, having the flexibility to be able to go through that range of motion safely, combined with the strength to be able to support it, means you'll be able to do better things, more things, and to do it on a more consistent basis too. Overall, stretching is fantastic for our daily activities. Okay, so we've talked about the myths, we've talked about the benefits, But how do you actually structure a good stretching routine? Again, if you want a stretching routine that just does all the work for you, you can sign up to adapttoperform.co.uk, link down below, 50% off your first year. But here's how you could approach it without my membership site, a freebie for you essentially. Now what you want to do is approach stretching just like any other training session. It's just another way of training your muscles. Think cardio is a way to get your heart and lungs pumping well, get your cardiovascular system working. Strength work is for strengthening the muscles, getting them stronger. Stretching, treat it exactly the same. We want hard days, we want rest days. We want to make sure that we're doing it on a consistent basis to get the benefits in. And just like any training session, you always want to warm up before stretching. The reason for that is because we want to get the blood flowing, we want to increase that heat in our muscles, our body temperature, and that's going to help us to safely do these stretches. The better warmed up you are, the better you're able to do those stretches. A great way to do this is do your workout, stretch afterwards. Your body's nice and warm, everything's flowing nicely, and you can do your stretching at the end of the session. That's the static stretching to get those muscles going. Now, I want to talk about how long we should be stretching for each time we do a stretch. I could bore you with all the science of exactly how long it's been researched and all that kind of stuff. So you're going to have to just trust me here that I've done the research and I know what I'm talking about when it comes to the length of stretching. What we're going to do is 30 seconds of intense stretching per muscle that we stretch. You're going to do each one of those 2 times, so 2 lots of intense 30-second stretches, and you're going to do those 5 times a week. So to give you an example, you could do your chest for 30 seconds, your back for 30 seconds, your arms, your neck, whatever it may be where you're stretching. Each one intense stretch for 30 seconds, then you can rest for a bit, and then go again for another round on each muscle. Then you're done your stretching. And then you repeat that 5 times a week. Each session should maybe take you 5-10 minutes long. It's not a particularly long session, and you can do it at the end of your other training sessions to make sure you're staying on top of it. So I'll repeat, and I'll put it down below as well. 2 sets of 30 seconds of intense stretching per muscle, 5 times per week is the optimal way of getting your flexibility training in. If you can't do that, get as close to that as you possibly can. But that method is the optimal method. So if you can hit that, great. So to sum it up, what we want to do is ignore the myths that we've been told over the years about stretching and flexibility and that, and stick to the science that I've been explaining throughout this video. If you've got any comments, questions or concerns about anything I've talked about, let me know in the comment section down below and I'll be sure to help you. As always, like and subscribe. But remember, be consistent with your stretching. Do the work that I've told you to do and you'll get best results from your flexibility so you can improve daily activities, your life, absolutely everything. Good luck and I'll see you soon. Goodbye everybody.
Are you ready to start your fitness journey? Then sign up now at adapttoperform.co.uk and get access to hundreds of workouts specifically for us wheelchair users.